welcome back to In the Kitchen. Today we are going to make my famous baked ziti. This is one of Phil's favorite dishes. It's actually the first dish that I've ever made for Phil. I remember my grandma always used to tell me, if you know how to make baked ziti, you can make any Italian dish. Because when you think about it, the base ingredients for baked ziti, really as far as the gravy goes, it's kind of the base ingredients for a really good gravy. So we're actually going to almost start off like we're making a gravy, but then we're going to add that gravy into the ziti and we're going to make baked ziti out of it. So our ingredients list is fairly simplistic here. Obviously, you're going to want some ricotta cheese. And then what we have here is we have about a half an onion chopped. We have some canned mushrooms. You can use fresh mushrooms if you want. I just got a ton of canned mushrooms on hand, and I really like the way they taste because they must marinate in that can. So I just like the way they come out. And then we got some brown sugar here. And we got some Parmesan cheese here. We have some basil, Italian seasoning. This here is garlic powder. And then we have 3 garlic cloves that I've chopped up. And then obviously we have our noodle. It can either be a penne noodle, it can be a rigatoni noodle, it can be a ziti noodle. It's really, it's called baked ziti really because it's ziti noodles, but you can make it with any kind of noodle. As long as it's a long, thick noodle, you're gonna be good to make your ziti. And then we have some mozzarella. And then as far as the sauce goes, what I'm going to do is it's a regular off-the-shelf can of tomato sauce, chopped tomatoes, and this here is basically a tomato paste. So what that does is the tomato paste is really thick. So we're not going to drain off any of our meats. When we cook, what we're going to do from a meat standpoint here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to brown up a 1 pound of hamburger and 1 pound of sausage. We're going to go ahead and brown that off, cook that up with the onions. And then we're going to go ahead and add some of our sauces to it. So you're going to need 1 pound of ground beef or ground turkey if you're on the health conscious side. And then you're also going to need 1 pound of sausage, either regular pork sausage or ground sausage. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I got the water going behind me. It's already been salted and ready to go. So I'm going to drop those noodles in a little bit, and then I'm going to start browning up the meats, and we're just going to get going. See you in a second. We're going to do these noodles to almost an al dente noodle because what we're doing is we don't want to have them absorb all the moisture just yet. So we'll make them al dente, and when we mix them in with the red gravy, they're going to absorb a lot of that red gravy when it's baking in the oven. So just kind of make them al dente. So we'll just put them on there, let them set. I always leave it cracked a little bit because I don't want it to boil over if I'm not paying attention. All right, so we got our noodles boiling away here. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our meats. The first thing we want to do is get our garlic in there. And our onions. And our mushrooms. Give them a little stir. I want to try to cook down the mushrooms and onions and garlic a little bit before I add the meats. So we'll just let that sit in there. So what I've done is I've separated and put in bowls my meats here. So today I am using pork sausage and 80/20 ground beef. Don't forget about your noodles while you're doing this. Always make sure you're stirring your noodles up so they don't stick to the bottom of the pot. Don't be one of those people that add butter or oil to the water. It just makes your noodle very oily and slimy. You definitely don't want to do that. A lot of people say you can put that in there so it doesn't stick to the bottom. All it does is create an oil slick on top of the water. So try not to do that. All you need is water and salt. Put your macaroni in and let it go. All right, so now I'm going to add some meats here. We'll add our hamburger and our sausage. You know, you really want to put a twist on it. You can add like some fresh venison, and you could do that. That's definitely an option. You know, get creative with this dish. Make it your own. Everybody has their own special ziti the way they do it. This here is very traditional that I'm making. I make it many different ways. I do make it with venison. I do make it with turkey. But today we're going very traditional. In some previous episodes, I talked about my masher. My masher comes in handy every time I got any kind of pork sausage or ground beef that I'm doing up. So again, get in here with my masher and get that all broken down and cooking. Adjust my heat a little bit. I don't want to scorch it. Get my spoon in here, make sure I get my onions all mixed throughout so everything cooks nice and even. And now we just let it go. So now, since I put my wood spoon in with the meat, I want to make sure that when I stir my macaroni, now I'm using a fresh spoon, because I don't want to get any cross contamination here. Even though everything's going to bake, everything's going to cook through. Practice food safety. How do I know when my noodle's done, right? So I can feel it on the end of my utensil here. I can get a real good feel. I can push it up against the side and I can feel that it's still tough. So that's really, I don't like to put a time on it, to say you boil it for 20 minutes, boil it for 10 minutes. A lot of it's feel and look. I've been doing it for so long now, I just know what it feels like when I'm stirring it. But you know you got a good al dente noodle when you can take the noodle and just bend it without it breaking. If you bend it and it breaks, it's not cooked enough. All right, so we got a little pink hue here. We're almost done. We want to get all the pink out before we add any of our sauces. And no, I am not going to drain it because fat is flavor, and I do want the fat in this. I always say, those of you that are looking to go the lower calorie, healthier way, we're talking a noodle here. It's lots of carbs, right? So what's the sense? If you're going to go out with baked ziti here, go all the way. Grandma never drained it. She always used that fat because the fat is the flavor. That fat's going to get sucked into the noodle. It's going to get mixed through the red gravy, so it's just going to taste really good. So at this point now, I'm looking at my mix here, and it looks really good. It is just about done. At this point, we are ready to add the rest of our ingredients. So I'm going to turn the heat down to a medium. And now I am going to start to add the rest here. So the first thing I'll add is my tomato paste. This is regular off-the-shelf canned tomato paste. I have no preference because they really don't season the tomato paste, and the red sauce that I buy in the can is also unseasoned. It's just regular tomatoes, and that's what I'm looking for because I'm the one adding the seasoning. I don't want Prego or Ragu or any of that to add the sauces or the seasoning for me. I'm gonna do it myself. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my red gravy or the red sauce here, dump that in, make sure I get all of it. And then my can of chopped tomatoes, add them in. Again, it's just basic canned chopped tomatoes. No seasoning, nothing special. I do the seasoning. All right. So now we can start to get into it with the rest of our spices. Romano cheese, it's about a half a cup. 3 tablespoons brown sugar. It's about a half a teaspoon there or so of garlic powder. Italian seasoning. I go by look. It's about a teaspoon, maybe a little more. Oregano, same amount, about a half a teaspoon or so. All right, so now that I got this here, now I can start to mix this in. Your pot will be hot, so make sure you're using a pot holder and just kind of mix this all in. Look at that. That's money there. Now we're just going to mix it all through. Going to get all them spices mixed in there. Get that brown sugar all broken down. So now we're just going to let that sit for a little bit. When we come back, we're going to drain the macaroni and then we're going to put it all together. All right, so I'm feeling the macaroni with the spoon here. It feels good. Let's give it a test here. Push down on it. It's still a little hard. We're going to let it go a little bit longer. Keep stirring your gravy. You don't want this gravy to stick and burn here. And yes, believe it or not, this is a gravy. It's got meat in it. It's got chunks of vegetables in it. The tomato. It's almost a traditional gravy like I make on Sundays. However, I use a lot more of the tomato paste and the red sauce to actually get a really good thick gravy. But this is really the beginning of a gravy. Well, this looks good now. I'm going to turn this off. Focus on my noodles. And as soon as my noodles are done, we'll put everything together. The noodle will be hot, so if you really want to test your noodle, get yourself a pair of tongs, grab in there, grab a noodle or two, drain it off, and just kind of let it sit on the end of there and give it a feel. It's bending nice without breaking. That's a good al dente right there. So we'll go ahead now, shut that down. I'm gonna let it cool for a little bit. Just let it sit there for about 5-10 minutes. Just let it rest for a little bit from that rolling boil. Give your sauce a little stir. Yeah, perfect. I don't even have to taste it. I can smell it. I know it's perfect. Like I say, I've been doing this for many years. I just know by looking at it if I got it right or not. It's very thick. Here's a little trick. If you know how you know it's thick enough, go ahead and set your spoon in there. If your spoon will stand up like that, perfect. That's what you're looking for. You want it to hold itself in. That means your bind is good, and it's going to bind well to them noodles. It's going to make a really good, thick ziti that's going to be bellissimo. All right, let's get ourselves 2 pot holders, and we're going to take this over to the sink, and we're going to drain them right through the strainer. Now, what I do next, I strain them, try to keep the noodles in the strainer. Go back into the pot. Take the pot, back over to the stove. Now what you want to do, this is a little bit more difficult, but we're basically combining the two. So what I'm going to do here, grab onto this and just kind of swoop. Looks good. And we're going to go ahead and just combine it now. Mix it all together. This is a very simple dish to make. As you make it more and more, it gets easier and easier, and you don't even need to think about it when you're making it. I cannot believe I'm telling the world my grandmother's secret ziti recipe. Sorry, Grandma. All right. It looks very good here. Now it's time to go ahead and put it into our baking dish and add our cheeses. So what you want to do is get yourself one of these guys. I don't know the name. I call it the big spoon with holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly fill this because I want to layer this. I want to layer it with all the ricotta cheese, right? So, take myself a spoon, get this over here, kind of lay it on the bottom there. Get myself a good bottom layer. Just trying to coat the bottom basically. Make sure you leave yourself enough to cover, which I got plenty. So now what I'm going to do is take my ragout. You can use 2 spoons, but what I do is kind of like do the flick method. So I grab myself some, flick it, flick it, flick it. And you just, little dollops basically. You're not going to use the whole container. You could buy one of them smaller containers. I just use a lot of ricotta cheese in this household. So that's why I got such a big one here. The ricotta cheese gives it a nice smooth flavor as it cooks down. This ricotta cheese will kind of smooth out and spread out as it bakes. So it's really nice there. So now what we'll do is we'll get some more on here and continue this layering. You don't have to completely cover the ricotta, so don't think like you got to make it disappear. I just like the layered effect because when you dish it out, it really looks nice with the ricotta kind of squeezing out and oozing out. Look at that. It's like a picture. Let's go ahead and move it over here. And now what we're going to do is take our mozzarella and get our mozzarella on here. We want to cover the whole top with mozzarella. This is probably 2 of those smaller size mozzarella packages that you buy in a grocery store. I get the thick cut. I don't like that thin shaved mozzarella. I like the thick. So look for thick cut mozzarella. So get that on there, kind of spread it out a little bit. Make sure we don't have no big clumps. You want to see some of the noodle coming through. All right, and now you'll have leftover oregano and Italian seasoning because you didn't use all of it. So what you want to do is kind of just give a little sprinkle on top for some color of both the Italian seasoning and your parsley. And just kind of like incorporate it on top of that cheese. When that melts down, that'll look real nice. Real nice, Clark. All right. At this point, I'm going to preheat the oven at 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake this off with a baking sheet underneath of it, just in case we get overflow. So put a baking sheet underneath of this, put it in the oven 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. All right, our oven is preheated. We're going to go ahead and put this guy in here on the top shelf. I don't want the bottom to burn. It's another reason why I got that baking sheet on there. Kind of put it in the middle of your oven and let it go. 45 minutes to an hour. You're looking for the top to become brown, creamy, and crispy. And it will be a masterpiece. Okay, welcome back. So it's been about 45, 50 minutes now. We're ready to take it out of the oven. So let's take a look and see what we got. Oh yeah, look at that. We got nice browning around the edges. We're bubbly, which is very good. And you see how, when I talked about how you see those Italian seasonings, the basil, the Italian spices there, they all blend in real nice and just look real presentable when you serve it. So now we're going to let this set and rest for about 15 minutes before you serve it. Spoon it out, put it onto a dish, Sprinkle a little bit Parmesan Romano on top of each serving, and you're done. There you go. This is Jersey Joe's famous baked ziti. Remember, keep the faith, say a prayer for every meal, thanking the Almighty for what He gives you. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, as well as follow us on Facebook at Jersey Joe Congemi.